Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of The Art of Action Figures. I don't know if this is going to be considered a full episode. We'll see. But I'm going to be doing a quick unboxing of this Heihachi figure from Bandai. Obviously, a character from Tekken. I recently took a look at Jada Toys Ryu and was really impressed. I've had that figure for quite some time. This figure is going to be brand new to me, but I'm going to take a look at him side by side with Ryu. I think a lot of people are going to want to see how they compare. They're very similar in their costume and build, and I mean their anatomy, not necessarily the engineering of the figure. They're comparable in price. I think it's no coincidence these are coinciding with an upcoming Tekken game. I think it might be coincidence coinciding with Jada. That might just be a product of Street Fighter and Tekken, both having new games coming out. People want tie-in products, blah, blah, blah. Anyhow, let's just briefly go over the packaging. We have a rendering of Heihachi's character himself, not the figure, on the front. It says Tekken, Bandai Namco, Heihachi the character, Tekken TM, no less. Game dimensions. I don't know if this is an existing line or if this is a new one. But I'm excited to see if Bandai has even more game properties they're thinking of tackling. There is a Tekken 8 Stay Tuned sticker in the upper right corner. No idea what that means. And this figure is marked for ages 4 and up. It also says a warning, definitely not for children under 3 due to small part choking hazard. If you're between 3 and 4, not sure what to tell you, but use your discretion. GD obviously stands for game dimensions, of course. Tekken TM, this is figure number 2. Here's number 1, is Kazuya. I don't really know that character. I do know Heihachi. I am not the biggest Tekken buff, so if people know a lot about Tekken, is this accurate to Tekken 7? His appearance? Is it different from all prior Tekkens? I don't know. I have only played, I think, Tekken 2, or maybe was there a game, Tekken Tag? I don't really know, but characters I can remember. This guy with his pointy hair. King, the guy with the cat head. Is there a panda? And maybe a dragon or something? I think that's the extent of my oh, and there's like a Jin? Is that a character? He has wings and like horns and stuff? I don't know. I'm really unfamiliar with Tekken, but played it a long time ago, arcades and friends' houses, but I am very interested to see how these figures come out. I'm not historically the biggest fan of this style of Bandai figure. Bandai is a parent company that has all kinds of sub-brands, including the SH Figure Arts brand. I don't really know what the relationship with Tamashii Nations is. But then they also have other lines like their anime heroes, and I think this is going to be closer in price and in design to those lines of figures. I haven't experienced any of those myself, but I have had a couple of Dragon Stars. Those are at least sold in similar areas and similar price. I've not been super impressed with the Dragon Stars figures, to be honest. I think the sculpts look pretty decent. The articulation is just not quite up to the standard I would look for in a modern figure. So we'll see how they do with this Tekken line. And without further ado, let's just crack this thing open. So another nice render on the side real quick. Back of the box, character render, not a figure render. Back of the box, you see a picture of the figure, picture of the other figure in the wave, and then there's 2 unknown characters, and then 2 empty boxes. So I don't really know what that means, if they're going to have 5 figures total in this wave, 3 in this wave, and then 2 more later. Yeah, not sure. So far we've only seen 2. There's all kinds of writing. There's actually some screenshots. I'm guessing this is from Tekken 7. That's kind of cool. Some video game source material art on the packaging is always appreciated. So opening can either be the bottom or the top. I usually try to open at the bottom because it's just filled with a bunch of garbage, so I don't care if that gets a little damaged as I'm opening it. I usually try to be very careful though. Slice the tape, use a flat object to just kind of, and do this with care, please. Use an adult. If using a sharp implement, you can also use like maybe a thin ruler or something, nail file, I don't know. But yeah, you just want to wedge this under and try to push the flap towards that slot, and there you go. And that's how you can open these boxes without wrinkling the flap, which, if you are like me, matters for some indiscernible reason. Now, all right, sliding this out, I can see a few things already that I'm pretty happy about. So, oh my goodness, so I don't want to destroy this really nice backdrop piece. So look at that, wow. That's really nice. And I don't know if this is like a foldable little tab here. I think so. I think you can tab that. No, maybe not. I don't really know how to use this. It does seem to me like this is meant to somehow be displayed using that tab. I may figure that out later, but for now I'm just going to put this in the back because that's really dramatic and cool. It's like a volcano erupting. So really nice. The Jada Street Fighter figures have backdrops as well. So that's something I really like to see by comparison. There's tape along the tray. The tray's in 2 pieces, so we'll see if they are completely fitted or if they're just kind of resting. It seems like it's just kind of resting on there. And then are these going to be loose? Hands. Yeah, the hands are loose in the package, so do want to be careful not to dump those out and lose them with this tray that doesn't really seal. As far as I can tell, I don't think it seals. Yeah, so let's see, some accessories. We have this sign that says ready. That's pretty cool. And I think, yeah, look at that. You get a little music stand. It's not a music stand, but it's shaped like one and it functions like one. We'll put that back there. Are you ready? I think I'm ready. There we go. That's easy enough. He has this, which I don't know if this is some named move for Heihachi. It has little rings. I don't know if his arms go through there. Maybe on the box it will tell me. I don't know, the box suggests maybe in this photo this is what he's doing here. Photo. Screenshot. Maybe that's what's going on. We'll see if we can do something with that in a minute. It's a softer plastic, but not completely soft. I wouldn't bend this too hard. It might break, especially on some of the central plastic. The central piece is a little bit harder. And I think that's just down to mass. Okay, let's get the man out himself. Okay. So he comes in this like pose that is very strange because he's like, his back is to the front of the packaging. You don't see that very much. Let's get him in a neutral stance here. All right. There he is, winged hair. The old master, I'm assuming. I don't really know the lore of Tekken. I hear lore of fighting games is something to write a thesis on, so I haven't spent that time myself, but if you know what this guy's deal is, I'd love to learn more. But for me, he's got the vibes of an old crotchety master. Crotchety? Crotchety. What does that even mean? I don't know. Is he a villain? His hair is in a V shape. And something about that says villain to me. Now, looking at the details, or actually, let's go over the last two accessories. Pretty simple. So he has a splayed open hand and a fist, and then he has alternate hands matching each of those. So 2 fists, 2 open hands. Pretty simple. Let's go ahead and swap one of these out. That's easy enough. I like that. Sometimes my experience with Dragon Stars was their hands, alternate hands, were really tight and hard to change. So that's great. That seems a lot better. And then let's talk about some details. So I can see one thing off the bat that might throw some people off. The finish on his pants is very different from the finish of his gi. And this was inevitable. So let's just go ahead and get him out. The challenger, Jada Ryu. You can see he has kind of a uniform finish, and part of it is just different materials. So I think, yeah, both figures have a soft plastic top gi, and then the pants are hard plastic on both. But Ryu, I think they've done a really good job matching the finish and the color. Whereas Heihachi here, the finish is definitely off. The color's fairly close, but the pants are very shiny, whereas the top is not. And from looking at the package, I'm going to assume these are both supposed to be the same fabric, so it's not the worst I've seen, but it definitely doesn't match perfectly, if that's what you're looking for. Let's see. Some other nice things. He has this like star-shaped scar in his chest. I think someone's probably done him a Hadouken at some point. Let's take a look at that face. That is a mean-looking face. And let's get some more light on him. There we go. Bear with me. I'm still in the early days of making videos with this setup, so I'm still working on what the best lighting is. I don't want it to be like totally flat. I do like to see a little bit of shadows here and there, but I do also want to show everything in detail as best I can, so I'm trying to compromise and maybe move the lights around as I go. That is a pretty good look. That the eyes are really clean print on there. Let's see if I can actually increase this one a little bit and bring it down just a hair. Yeah, so then you can take a look at his hair. He's got these really nice wings for hair, some serious sideburns, grumpy mustache. I don't know what about it makes it grumpy. I think it's the handlebars. It always looks grumpy when people have handlebars. It's like they're mustache is frowning all the time. Yeah, and then from the back, he's got a little bit of hair on the back there. You can see how the neck is done. And then he has this really interesting screaming tiger print on the back of his gi. Definitely not something we see on Ryu here. I don't really know what the tiger symbolizes in Tekken, but it seems important. Let's see. These wrist cuffs are separate plastic, not painted, so they're perfectly clean. No paint splotching or anything to worry about there. Really nice wristband sculpt. There's not too much paint going on at all, I think. If I'm right, the only paint I can see is the face and the eyebrow and the mustache. Even the hair is, I think, a separate piece of white plastic. Wow, that's pretty impressive. Like, honestly, I'm not the paint enthusiast that a lot of people are. I don't really like when the paint wears or scuffs or is not applied cleanly, so I'm actually a big fan of when companies can engineer things where they don't need to be painted to be the right colors. Some interesting things I'm noticing: the pins in the elbows are there. They're the right color, obviously, to match his skin tone. I don't really mind pins as long as they're the right color. And then he has them in his shoulders too, which is kind of unusual, but I do think that's a common thing for Bandai's like $20 to $30 figures. He's got some kind of torso articulation under this gi. No pins in the knee hinge, which is interesting. Are they ratcheted? Yeah, they are ratcheted. That's a pretty good looking knee. It doesn't bend quite as much as Ryu's. Actually, you know, it's comparable. And just that little bit of rounding on the kneecap, I think, goes a long way to make it look a little more natural. Of course, then you got to think about, what does it look like in... Oops. Sorry, Ryu. That's okay. Okay, he's running off for a moment. It does look a little bit like a knee pad from the neutral position, so trade-off there, I think. Not sure if there's a perfect happy medium, but neck articulation really quite good in the lower neck, but the upper is a little more limited than I'd like to see, and I think it's because it's a single ball. Let's pop his head off if I can. Yeah, that's easy enough. Oh yeah, okay, so there's your problem with the neck articulation, where he's not getting quite as much range as Ryu does. You can see the difference. This is just a ball on top of this neck itself, which is connected to the torso on a ball. So 2 ball joints total, whereas Ryu has 3. So Ryu has 1 in the lower neck, and then the double ball in the upper neck. And that double ball really gives him a lot more head range. And let's take a look at what I mean by that. So if we wanted to get him in kind of a attitude to the side pose, it's comparable, but you can see the angle of Ryu's nose there is a little more steep. Looking up, Heihachi doesn't really get too much range going up. How about down? Down is pretty good. down is very comparable, so I think they optimized for down. Sometimes if you have a joint that's limited, you can pick one direction or another and it'll move more in that direction. It seems like down is the way to go here. I think going back, he might get a little bit more range if his hair wasn't blocking. But the hairline is a little bit impeding. Something I was curious about, it does not seem like his gi is designed to be removed. Now, that's not to say you can't remove it, but I think, I can't tell if it's glued down anywhere. It doesn't seem to be. But if you look underneath, let's get some light under there. There's actually like a pretty big gap. I'm going to use a purple light, so it's very hard to see, but you can actually see the inner ball joint there. So if you took his gi off, you would have to contend with that gap and find some way to hide that. But what that gap does allow is like a really pretty decent ball type range of motion at the lower torso. And then his upper torso also has some kind of cut. I think that's like more of a ab crunch. Yeah, you can hear it click. It doesn't want to give me any clicks going forward, but I get one click going back. The Kazuya figure has the gi. He has no gi, so you can see that it has more of a Cyclops hairstyle ab crunch like this, I think is what's going on under his gi in the upper torso, but then he has the lower ball peg style, and that gets him a pretty good range of motion. It's nothing like Ryu's, but it's not as limited as the Dragon Stars that I've experienced. Oh, there we go. Well, let's just take a real close look at this. That did not come off easily. I was really bending it. But you can see that's the joint that would be a little bit exposed if you took his gi off. And it's interesting, that's not a round hole. You get a square hole and a round peg. Some metaphor in there. Okay. But it does give him a pretty good range. Oh my goodness. I'm really trying to push the range, that's why it's popping off. I really value when other reviewers put their figures on the line for the range of motion demonstration, and I really want to get the most out of this that I can. I've bought this for my collection, so I want to like it. Let's just compare Ryu. Similar soft gi, but you can see he gets just past where Heihachi is going. Let's put their arms straight out to the front so you can really tell. And I'll try to put their legs straight down. It's sometimes hard. You got to come up with creative ways to demonstrate range of motion, because I don't really find stuff like, he's got an ab crunch, look. I don't find that very helpful. So I try to do let's do neck looking down. Their down was pretty comparable, so let me just lower Heihachi for a second here. I think that gives you a pretty clear indication of the difference. And then something else of note, the Street Fighter Jada figures have really nice butterfly joints. This one does not. It is on some sort of ball socket, so he does get like a little bit of shoulder rolling in there, but I'm not sure you can do too much with it. You can lower it a little, you can just kind of pull it forward and back, but it doesn't give you any crossbody on the front or on the back. Or my favorite, up top, he's got V for victory, but no A for amazing. So, butterfly joints, I think, are top 3 articulation or even action figure innovations in recent years. They really unlock a lot of posing capability, so I'd love to see them add them on this line. Let's see, I think that's run about all the articulation. I didn't talk about his elbows. So double hinge elbows, I really get annoyed when these are demonstrated, but they're like not careful to bend them in the way that gives you the max range, so I'm going to be careful to do that. Looking at that bicep vertically, that's 90 degrees, give or take. A little more, maybe, but and I didn't point out he does have the import style wrists, so that's pretty cool actually. I think that is standard for most of these Bandai figures, but that's really nice because you get the hinge. And while I'm at it, let's go ahead and put the alternate hands on and maybe see if we can do something with this effect. I don't really know what way this is supposed to go, but I'm going to just be creative and throw it over these open hands. I'm thinking this is going to have an effect kind of similar to the Turles figure arts. Not obviously refinement aside, the like blast effect that is kind of seems to be floating between the character. I think he'd probably have his wrists back. If I am setting this effect up incorrectly, let me know how it's supposed to be. But it could maybe go the other direction. But that seems to be the intended use. I don't think it goes over his legs or anything. So that's pretty neat. I think you could do some... Yeah, so you gotta take the hands off to remove those rings of the effect. Let's see. I think I've covered just about everything I want to. I did want to talk about his hip articulation because it's got my least favorite kind of hip. Drop down hinge. So several things I don't love with these kind of hips. Number one, you move one hip, it moves the other one. And it just makes it really unstable. So like, look at that. It's an action feature. I do not like action features. I want the figure to stand how I want it to stand, but yeah, this guy, let's see how the range of motion on these hips is. So the reason you do drop down is, you see how they've cut the diaper there? It's more of a V shape versus if I bring Ryu out and I lift up his gi, you can see that's got much more cut into the crotch versus here. And so that means, like, if you just brought the leg forward with no drop down, you don't get it very far before it starts to kick out because of that crotch shape. But if you do have the drop down, you get a little bit more before it starts to kick out, but it still kicks out. So I don't know. Okay, if I don't let the leg kick out, and what I mean by that is like it could kick forward, or it could kick forward at an angle out to the side. So here's forward. There's forward at an angle. And see, that's just what it starts to do, regardless of this drop-down hinge. It does actually help it go... No, does it do anything out to the side? I don't know. Yeah, it does a little bit help kicking all the way to the side, and he gets the 180 split, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, because if I do the split and then move it back, you can see the hinge has dropped. So the hinge has to drop for him to split. It does kind of smoothly, so it's hard to like hold the hinge in place and kick it out, but if you do that, you get it about that far. So it does help going out to the side, but again, no hinge. You don't need it, and more stable as a result. So these knee joints are interesting. So are the elbow joints. They're different from the way I typically see these kind of hinges. They're just thicker, and you can see on Ryu there, it's not bad one way or the other. I'm not sure if it means anything for the durability of that joint, but like sometimes Marvel Legends like to use a real soft plastic for these really thin hinges. Ryu's are great. There you go. That is a much better view of what I was trying to show earlier with that gap that lets you get that lower ball motion, but I mean, means you probably don't want to remove his gi, or you would probably need a belt to cover that up if you did. Does he ever appear without his gi top? I'm not sure. Let me know. His ankles, I think, are kind of your standard swivel hinge with an additional swivel at the top. They get about that much rock. Little bit of range going down, maybe 30 degrees, and then not too much going forward. He's got bare feet. Let's compare his feet. His big feet. Some Flintstone feet. Hobbit feet, even. He's got some height on Ryu as well, but not like an absurd amount where they wouldn't scale together. I think they look actually really great together. Yeah, they make a cute pair. Let's see. Move him back and you can see the height a little bit better, I think. Heihachi has like just a hair above Ryu, but not too much. His legs are spread a little. Let's see if I can get him more neutral. You know, not really. And I think that's down to the way that the crotch is shaped again. It doesn't let him pull his legs straight together like Ryu. It's about as... Let's get the fists back on for real one-to-one comparison here. Okay. I think Ryu's skin tone, if you've seen my review, is a bit too orange. This skin tone is about right for his, I think. So, could give you some idea. You can see Ryu gets a much straighter neutral position. Heihachi's got a bit of that going on at the arms and legs. But not too bad overall. I think this is actually a bit like $1 or $2 more than Ryu. I don't know if it's just the Bandai price. He does come with this sort of unique thing. But, you know, comparable for the price. I think Jada is pretty much untouchable right now in articulation for price. I would love to see some competition. I think that's good for collectors like me. But yeah, I never really showed what his legs can do forward and back, so with no kicking out to the side, it only goes up that much without the drop tip. With the drop tip and no kick to the side, you can get it. Oops. Okay, so this is a good chance to demonstrate what I mean by drop hip if you've never seen one. That ball is connected to a peg, which is connected to a hinge in the middle of the crotch. And so you can see it pushes up and down. So I can move that ball. This light gone out, and that's been a problem. There we go. There we go. Okay, so something else of note, he doesn't have thigh swivel. He does have the Mafex style really little thigh swivel around the ball socket. Better thigh swivel, I think, could go a long way. Alright, I think batteries are running out on everything. Lights, cameras, action. And I'm going to call it there. That's Heihachi.